Hey, and anyone who might be joining us, Black Republican, Black Democrat show will be starting very soon. As always, we are the greatest Black Republican, Black Democrat political talk show on the planet Earth. So please support the show by sharing. If you'd like to participate or join the debate, by all means, please comment below the live stream on the Black Republican, Black Democrat page, and we'll show your comments on screen and hopefully get to them if we can. So thank you very much. We'll be starting very soon. And guys, I just need 30 seconds to connect the chat. Okay, gents, the show is all yours whenever you're ready.
Welcome to Black Republican, Black Democrat. I'll be your co-host tonight, Jamar.
And I'm your other co-host, A.K. Kamar.
Oh, okay. Welcome.
How you doing, man?
It's good to be black.
It's good to be black. You're still black? You haven't changed?
All my life.
Hey, guys, someone has a speaker on in there and it's feeding back really bad.
It could be me, it could be technology, and I'm trying to be hip here, and I won't turn down my damn phone, but that's okay.
It's working great.
That's okay.
You know what?
Technology.
It all works out, man.
I wasn't in the studio last week, so I'm not used to that. I had to get back, acclimated to being in the studio again.
I got to ask you a question, man.
What, man?
You're wearing a Raiders hat, bro.
Well, yeah.
Why?
Well, because I'm a Raiders fan.
And a Cowboys fan?
See, I forgot you don't like sports. You don't know that. You can hold more than one team as your favorite. And
so are they like your second favorite? So if it was Cowboys, Raiders in the Super Bowl?
Is Bullfrog's ass waterproof? Now, there's no other team that is my favorite than the Cowboys. That's it. I'm a Cowboy. So there's fans, and then there's me. I'm a Cowboy, right? Me and my son and my nephew and a couple of my cousins,
Yeehaw.
So, yeah, well, no.
Not that kind of cowboy.
No. Not the redneck, all right? No. We're Dallas Cowboy fans, and so I'm a Raiders fan too. I like this hat though. I like it since I'm a hat guy anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, when you get our age, you go bald, and so you got to hide it a little bit.
Yeah, I'm the same way, man. I have all different types of hats. I actually need to upgrade my hat game because a lot of my hats are starting to get, like dingy. You know how that happens? Even this
I got
hat,
some.
man.
You know what? I'm gonna see if there'll be a sponsor because I ain't gonna say their name.
Yeah.
But I got some stuff that will clean your hats because I got like tons of them. So you can wash it, or you can take my stuff and you can clean your hat.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's from your sweat and your and the grease and things of that nature. Yeah. You don't want all that. Your hat be looking like you're a damn trucker.
Yeah, man. So your week's been pretty good. You traveled a little bit. You back?
I'm here with you.
You are.
Did you ask me am I back?
No, I said you traveled. And now
I'm back, and I'm black, and I'm better than ever. Damn it.
Wife and I, we sold our townhouse, and we purchased a new house.
Word.
And so it's been crazy for the last 3 days, man. You just got all the runaround. And the thing that's a trip is Beth is such like a meticulous person that she had almost the whole house unpacked by like 6 hours after we had to move her.
Oh, I don't blame her though for that's
it was done. Bro.
I don't blame her because if you delay it, it takes forever, and you look at your house looking like crap for 2 and 3 weeks. That's sorry. So Beth, kudos to you. Get that shit done.
And then I had to work on the garage and everything like that, but it's coming together nice, man. We're up in God's country, as they call it, Forest Lake.
All them white folks over there is not no God's country. You just up in Hickville.
It's actually a really nice area, man. It's so far haven't even met the neighbors, which I feel one way kind of about that. When I moved into Hugo, we got gift baskets. Like people like brought us over stuff and said, "Hey, welcome to the neighborhood."
You know what? You better watch them when them white folks go to bringing y'all gift baskets and things and see what's really in it. Watch and see. Okay, it could be a note at the bottom of it, and you better look and see, because it'll be one, or it could be an elephant ear or a dog ear or your dog's ear or something to tell you to get away. You out there in Hickville, boy.
It's like you're like living in like the 1840s.
I don't know. I'm just saying I'm scared. I just be, I like living in the city where I know where the shooting gonna happen at. I can depend on the shooting happen. I don't like the surprise elements of my neighbor just not liking me and they want to shoot me in the back of the head at night. No, I like when you can say boom, boom. Oh shit, you duck at night.
Then you duck and then you know what's going on.
I mean, come on now, pay some bills.
Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. Make sure that you hit that like button. Make sure you hit the share button. If you haven't had a chance to, please visit our link tree. That's our one-stop shop that will connect you with all of our socials, our TikTok, our Instagram, our YouTube, our Rumble account. If you decide you want to mail us something, we got a P.O. box listed there. But most importantly, if you like what we do and you want to support the actual production of the show,
what should you do? Please
hit that Patreon link. Go to Patreon/BRBD. It's going to allow you to become a subscriber. When you become a subscriber, whether you're a $10 a month, a $25, $100 a month, 100% of those proceeds go to produce this show. None of it goes to my or Jamar's pocket. But what we want to be able to do is, if we can get enough sponsors, we want to produce more episodes per week. Right now we're doing one a week. If we get more sponsors, we will definitely do more than one episode. So please hit that Patreon link, become a subscriber, and most importantly,
you always be saying that like we pimps or something. No, just tell folks, we don't pocket none of the money.
We don't pocket any of the money. After that, please check out our sponsors. We had a sponsor that joined a couple of weeks ago, and it is TakeCharge Minnesota. TakeCharge Minnesota is restoring the two-parent black family. It's a key priority for them by embracing 3 foundational values: family, faith, and getting a better education for our children. TakeCharge is releasing a film entitled I Am a Victor on May 6th, which chronicles the 2 cultural paths followed by black Americans and the results of those 2 paths over the last 50 years since the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Please visit the website, IamAVictor.com, to sign up and stay up to date on the latest news about the movie. Producer, roll the trailer, please.
What Martin Luther King did, that was pretty fast forward and just really changing the mindset in many people. The start of that, you're gonna treat a human being like another human being.
And that's a dream that I shared, and that's the road I thought we were on.
We are not victims.
Again, thank you to our new sponsor, TakeCharge Minnesota. Please visit IamAVictor.com. Now, if you're thirsty or you need some postage, where are you going to go?
You should go to the Weber Mart.
The what?
The Weber Mart.
What's so great about the Weber Mart?
Well, it's a good thing because I like the owner. He's a good dude, and he saves folks, too. And not only does he save folks, he can save you some coins. If you go get your bread there, if you go get your mail there, everything, you can get it at the Weber Mart.
Weber Mart. So if you're in the Minneapolis area or you're passing through Minneapolis, please stop over at 1701 44th Avenue and visit the Weber Mart.
The Weber Mart. You know, AK, I the world has been blown up over the fact that Elon Musk bought Twitter. And I think a lot of us are afraid of him releasing the Kraken, that is Donald Trump, back on Twitter. Today he made a broad statement of saying that the quote I think it said something about him being on it now is a stand for free speech, right? Well, so that lets me know that he will be bringing Donald Trump back on, and then there goes the damn neighborhood.
Well, Donald Trump already said that he's not going to go back on Twitter. That he's going to stay over on Truth Social, his app.
True what?
Yeah, exactly. Truth Social.
Was that a crime network?
So Trump's organization created Truth Social, which is supposed to be, Twitter, but not restricting everybody's free speech. The thing is that the rollout has been super, super delayed. People that signed up were waiting 3, 4. Some people are still waiting to actually get on it. But then the biggest criticism that I've seen is that President Trump never tweet. He doesn't post.
He
he doesn't post. And so But he made a statement saying that he wishes Elon the best. Hopefully he can turn things around for Twitter for free speech, but that he's not going to be joining on Twitter. But for me, I've always been fascinated by Elon Musk. I think he's an interesting person. He's not really political because he's not left or right. He's just
he's political.
He's not though, man.
Oh, he's political.
He wants universal basic income. He wants to legalize marijuana. You know what I'm saying? Like he wants free speech.
So that's
like
all political.
Right.
You want him? You had a chance to how about cut the world hunger or American hunger maybe in half? Yet you buy Twitter. So don't tell me that this man wants to see things happen because, and I mean that for real.
Yeah.
Kind of, and I'm not saying I don't know everything that he's done, but kind of put your money where your mouth is. Seriously, that you took to buy Twitter, bro, could have fed a lot of hungry families, could have housed them, could have done a lot. And now he's a billionaire, he still has the chance to do so. But honestly, I think you make a better mark on the world, if you do something like that than buying Twitter, which is a toy to this guy. He probably bought it because he can't stand the folks that run it or don't like what they. Well, he's expressed that he didn't like what they do, especially after they banned Trump. So that says to me that he's going to continue to be political because he is. But save the world. Put your money where your mouth is.
So when I think of someone saving the world, the idea that he has Starlink, which is going to bring literal internet connection to anybody anywhere in the globe. They're going to have a total of 10,000, I believe, and that might be on the lower end, 10,000 satellites, and that will allow people from all across the world. Now, in Ukraine, one of the things that Elon Musk did is he sent out the receivers so people could actually get internet access for free. And so, the thing that I've heard a lot.
What the hell does that do?
Knowledge, communication, man. Being able to, stay alive and coordinate when there's bombings, right? Like, if your internet,
you hear them bombs coming, you hear the air raid siren, get your ass in the basement and take cover.
No, it's actually fundamental to being able to survive. But here's the thing: when you talk about if he would have taken this $43 or $44 billion that he used to buy Twitter and fed the starving or whatever, the problem with that scenario.
Oh,
and this is actually factually true.
Okay,
if you feed a bunch of people, let's say you fed. 2 billion people for a month. After that month, all of these people will no longer have food because that $44 billion, if you went to just buy them food, doesn't do anything. So here's the thing that I think that most of these billionaires have figured out, and what they do with their foundations is they actually
keep it and give it to their friends.
They want to advance.
Their friends.
They want to be able to advance the science behind things. So I don't like.
Ooh.
I don't personally think that Bill Gates is a good person, but I think that but
Elon is.
But the Bill Gates Foundation, right, puts a lot of time, energy, and money into vaccinations, into
saving the world.
Right. He wants to depopulate the world over the long term.
Saving the world.
Whereas Elon Musk is the opposite of Bill Gates in regards to how he views humanity.
He's a rich, greedy bastard.
He wants. If you want to say Star Trek, right? He wants to be able to have humans increase the population and then go and colonize, other planets, right? Go to Mars, have a space station, right? That's what his perspective is. Whereas Bill Gates believes that depopulation is the way forward because, if there's 12 billion people on this planet, we don't have enough resources because that's the mindset that he has. So my point, though, is that regardless of how they're going to do it, just giving the billions of dollars to people won't actually do anything. They will starve a month later or 6 months later or a year later. You have to actually figure out a way to actually fundamentally change it.
Well, no kidding.
Poverty.
You don't just give it. But listen, you're being a little over dramatic. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you take $43 million to buy this social media company. When again, yes, that $43 billion could have been used. I mean, if he's buying speakers so that the Ukrainians can hear, then take
internet.
Well, what the hell? It doesn't matter. You got folks in America that need it versus folks in Ukraine. Please, Elon, listen. You make me sick. Now, how you been? I was tripping about how during which we got to get. I'm all today. I was trying to get some of these folks on from the teachers union, because during the strike, what was interesting is a group of Henry teachers, and staff,
Henry, right?
Patrick Henry. Yes, I'm sorry for those who don't know. Patrick Henry High School. This in North Minneapolis. have decided to sue Greta Callahan, which is one of the union stewards. They feel that they have been ostracized during the protest. I'm sorry, during the strike. Thank you. Why they say that is because they went to her. Some of the ideas that they had by going to some of these board members' homes and protesting, or I keep saying protesting, striking, whatever. Yeah. They thought would be triggering to some of the black staff members that were on the board, which I think that's a bad idea too. You don't send a bunch of white folks into North Minneapolis, okay, at 3:00 in the morning, picketing in front of my house. It's gonna trigger something, and I'm coming out shooting. Bah, 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 bah. Oh, those are teachers. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry. So, And so other ideas that the black staff had about trying to that should have been included about hiring the first in first out things, because most of the time they're talking about they're trying to go out and recruit. Thank you. God, thank you. I'm glad you're here today.
I'm finishing your sentence.
Thank you. You're my twin tonight. To recruit black teachers, but then, because the budgets of most schools are shrinking, the budgets of they lose the student population. The first in, the first out are the black teachers. So Greta had said that that would be in the contract negotiations, that they would find some way to fix that. It was not. They also agreed on a certain amount of pay that she said that, okay, we'll put that in there. It was not. So they feel what they call racialized and ostracized during the strike. And they're suing her because they feel that she didn't represent black and teachers of color properly.
I looked into the story. I remember reading about it when it first came out, and it made me scratch my head because unions are, for all intents and purposes, pretty progressive, right?
Well, yeah.
And most people that lead unions have pretty progressive mindsets and mentality. The thing that's interesting to me is that the main pushback from the black educators that have had a problem is that they were like, well, when you say that you're representing black voices, our voices are black, but we actually have a different opinion on certain things, just like how you mentioned. But here's the thing to me, as someone that's a conservative, I'm like, well, this is the problem with collectivism. You can't have everybody's interests represented. It's impossible. And so if I'm part of a union and these are the reasons that we're striking, for then me, after that strike has been agreed upon, to then say, well, let's add in these things. Again, we're talking about a collective group, and the larger representation is what matters most to the people that are striking. Now, I will say that it's curious to me because that's why I just find it like, well, yeah, your collective argument is only for black educators. The rest of the collective argument is that we need to have more mental health support for teachers and staff. You need the paras, right, to be able to be paid higher, smaller classes, things like that. Like, those were the main issues. And then you have this secondary issue that they wanted to try and put this out there. And it's just interesting that now it's led to a lawsuit because, that's how it works, though. Like, it's part of the collective agreement when you go to strike. So that's why, for me, that's why I don't like, for the most part, I don't like public unions. I think private unions, still not really my thing because I'm an individual, and I understand the idea that if you have a bunch of people together, but it's interesting. Now, do you know whether or not in the final collective bargaining agreement that they did institute exceptions for black educators? Because that's one of the things that I read is that it would exempt black educators from seniority rules.
It's not in there, I support them, and I'm glad that they're standing up and for black staff and teachers of color. So I've never been a union guy. Strong Democrat, I've just never been a union guy because I don't believe that bull that unions save black and people of color's jobs. Bull.
Wait, your mom was a union steward.
My mom was at Honeywell, great union steward. Again, I don't care.
But that's private.
that's like she makes great potato salad. Everyone loves it. I don't care. I don't really care for potato salad. I don't care. I'm not a union guy because I don't believe that unions save jobs particularly. You save your job, by your performance. I think unions can be crucial sometimes when it comes to making sure you get.
You want to switch hats?
No, listen. I'm just telling it as it is. It's not. See, I think too many times. See, that's the difference with it. I think folks too many times look at things through a partisan lens. Mm-hmm. I happen to be a black guy that's a Democrat that cares about the folks that look like him or folks that are working hard and busting their butts on a daily basis when they say that a union will save your job. No, you save your job. Your performance saves your jobs. Mm-hmm. A union can help get you better wages, some things that fight for things like keep safety on your job, things like that's what a union's for. But when I hear unions save black folks' jobs, no, they don't.
Yeah.
So I've never bought into that narrative, and I hate when that's said because that's not true. Because again, you wouldn't have situations like this, or if that's the case, maybe we wouldn't need unions. So I'm not going to spend time bashing unions because I think individuals feel different about unions. What I'm saying is I'm glad that they're doing this. I think I have a friend, so I'm kind of close to this because I have a friend that's quite pissed off about the whole situation because they didn't handle things wrong. They said that they did not hear the black teachers and staff that were picketing strongly. And here, I'll say this before we close, because I don't want to divulge too much, but apparently they went to the black staff and said, okay, we really need your support. Y'all would be the backbone behind us striking. So what is it that you want? What is it that you need? It was laid out in black and white. And obviously it was blatantly disregarded. And so I think that that's why you sue her, to stand up for those teachers and those students. Because students need to see folks that look like them in the classroom. Does it always help? No. But I guarantee you about 95% of the time, if a student of color sees an administrator, teacher, janitor, someone that looks like them, they will aspire to be that, right? I used to want to be the superintendent. When I seen Dr. Richard Green, I'm telling you, that brother had that George Jefferson afro, boy. I'm talking about he was cold-blooded. I loved it. I wanted to be somebody like him. So kudos to them for standing up for black teachers and people of color. The word BIPOC, I can't say.
You're not a BIPOC guy?
No, but I'll say that tonight. BIPOC.
The thing that, again, I'll bring this up. I brought this up before. I'm curious to see what the impact, because I believe they were on strike for 3 weeks.
18 days.
18 days. I'm still interested to see what that impact's going to be to the majority students of color in Minneapolis Public Schools.
And that's a good point. Because that's a good damn point.
My issue that I raised at the very beginning of this is I said, listen, these kids they're already behind because of COVID.
2 years.
They're already behind because of all of this different nonsense, and the structure's all gone. And I know that there was a concerted effort by unions all across the country because Sacramento did the same thing. And so all these large cities, all these unions said, this is the time, because if they don't come to the table after everything that's happened, this is where we have the most leverage. And I can understand that, right?
They're right.
And I get that. Yeah. But, man, you're literally putting these children at risk.
Absolutely.
And I'm curious to see what that impact's going to be, because I also see a lot of parents pushing back.
Yes.
Because they're saying, listen, you're going to make us have these kids in school for
to June 24th.
That's what I'm saying.
So as a parent, right, of a current child that goes to MPS, you increase the length of class time by 42 minutes. My daughter, who has a job after school, now I get that call, your child has missed 6 hours. No, she hasn't. Yeah. She was there.
Yeah.
So me and the principal had a little bit of a tiff. I said to her, well, wait a minute. It wasn't us parents, and you didn't even ask us parents to add these extra 42 minutes. You guys should have came up with something better, because you can't penalize, like you're saying, these kids now because the teacher struck or whatever. Yeah. That's not our responsibility. Then you want the kids to go 2 more weeks into school. Well, wait a minute. They had 16 days out of school.
Yeah.
They went to school for 4 days, and then you give them another 5 days out of school.
It's a trip, man.
That is crazy. So you should have kept the spring break so that they don't go into longer. I think, again, I'm glad that the superintendent is leaving, because dude does not have any cojones. He has no leadership skills, bro. Seriously. I couldn't stand him.
I agree.
We need someone that's going to lead, because when you got a guy that pits teachers and parents against each other, that's a
losing formula every time.
All the time, bro. And I feel bad for teachers. Not only are they unpaid, but they take the brunt of everything. When a guy or gal, but in this case, a guy who won't lead, who pokes the bear all the time, and now when his feet started burning, I'm out of here. Good riddance, sucker. Not only did that happen, I'm talking about, the world's on fire. I almost didn't feel like it. There was a report that came out today about over the last 10 years of how MPD have treated its citizens here in the city of Minneapolis. I mean, and I couldn't wait to talk to you with this. And then this is how we're going to bring in our guests, right? No shit, Sherlock. No shit. How many of us have been saying for the longest that this is how the police have been treating us? We didn't need this report, but I'm glad the scathing report validates what we've been saying. Too many white folks. And let me give just a small example of me talking about an incident on Chief Axtell's page yesterday, about John Thompson, in fact. And I made the remark because white folks always say you need to obey the law.
Comply.
No. She said obey.
Okay.
So I said to her, well, even when I said, excuse me, massa, even when you're obeying the law, you can tend to lose your life. Only white folks say things like that. Seriously.
And me.
Well, you're from a party full of white folks. So I think that for real, this does somewhat justice of how we've been saying we've been treated. I mean, this scar on my head came from sleeping in my bed, getting assaulted by Minneapolis police.
So this
illegally raiding.
So this report, I know that there's been a handful of reports that have came out about the handling during George Floyd protests and riots and everything that was going on.
Hiring practices.
Right. All of these different things, all these reports have been coming out over and over and over again. The thing that I think is constant through it is that the leadership is terrible. I don't know what is wrong with Minneapolis Police Department's leadership, but it's really, really bad. Because I, like you, we've had these discussions on the show before, that police officers are a vital role in keeping a society and a community going, right? Because we understand that there are bad people with bad intentions that want to harm other people. I just saw this story, and it was heartbreaking, out in
the 14-year-old girl.
Well, not even that one. This was, I want to say, I think it was Atlanta area, right? On video, black dude, security guard, getting out of his truck to go and grab some food. Young black man comes up, shoots him in the back of the head, right? Just to rob him, right? It wasn't like getting vengeance. And then two other young black dudes who heard the gunshot go up, instead of rendering aid or calling the cops, they rifle through his pockets.
Oh.
And then another black woman sees them rifling through the pockets. They walk up, they split up something that they found or whatever, and then she just stands there and then leaves. And my whole point, though, right, is that when you talk about this is why law enforcement matters, is because that type of stuff is happening. You know what I'm saying? Like just reckless stuff. But again, I think that this pushes this idea of the defund the police, that it gives them more life and legs. And you and I, we've talked about this a lot of times, and I know our guests probably have some opinions on it too.
For sure.
But I'm always curious about these reports, because it's like, well, what are you going to do? I mean, we've had black chief of police, right? We've had all these different check boxes, all these boxes that are checked of all these different things, right? Diversity, the whole 9 yards. But the leadership, the core leadership, is terrible in Minneapolis, and I don't know what you do to change that.
Off with their heads, I guess. I don't know. I know some folks are going to blame all Democrats. Leadership has no party. Bad leadership has no party, or no color, right? But I'll say this: I think that we were on the right trajectory under Chief Ron Arredondo. Thank you, Lord. I am off tonight. And I think that too bad that I think that he didn't like. I'm curious to wonder why he retired. Maybe he just had enough after 30 plus years of being there. But then that's a problem. Now when you see this interim chief, who now seems like she's just toting the same water, going as with the same old status quo, it's scary. So this is part of that same bad leadership. So I hope that during the search, it's they bring in someone outside of Minneapolis police that's not been in the police department. That doesn't work anymore to me. I I'm all for sometimes going through the ranks and bringing folks up. You do want that, but no. I want somebody now outside with some fresh eyes, some real fresh eyes, to come in and hopefully shake this department up. They can be male or woman. Personally, I want a female. I want a woman chief. I want a black woman chief. Who you talking to? I want a black woman chief, but strong, but holds the community accountable, but also holds that department accountable. And so until we get that, leadership's going to suck, period, because I think too many of those politicians want to appease certain constituents, the rich ones, and, doesn't matter party, but the rich ones, and sometimes the non-black ones, until a voting year anyway, election year. Leadership around here has been bad. And so, I don't know. You hear me fumbling because I got no excuse. I've been friends with a lot of those folks that have led, and, I've been very critical of them. And I'm like, I don't know, other than, what do you do to change it? Folks got to quit accepting the same old, same old. You got to quit throwing the remote at the TV. And if you're tired, you got to make a change by electing someone else. If you ain't tired, if you're happy with the current situation, and that's how you change things. And so that's why tonight's guest is even greater to have bring in and have her opinion on change in Minneapolis. Welcome to tonight's guest, candidate for county attorney, retired Judge Martha Dimick. How are you, Judge?
I am fine, and thank you, AJ and Jamar, for having me on your show.
AK.
That's okay.
AK, sorry. And you know what? I do have something to say.
Yes,
about
ma'am.
the police department.
Let's get right to it.
It's cultural.
Yes.
And it's been cultural for a very long time.
Yes, ma'am.
You do need someone outside of the state of Minnesota as your next police chief.
Yes.
And you need a police chief that's going to have at least a 10-year contract. I say that because the contracts run out
3 and 4 years.
Right.
Yeah. Yes.
And you need somebody that's going to be able to intercept and change the contract, the nature of the contract, the terms of the contract within that period of time.
Yes. 4 years ain't long enough.
They just signed. I think they just got a new contract. Okay?
Yes.
So you need someone that's going to be able, after that contract expires, to get in there and make some changes. I look at the police department, and I've worked with the Minneapolis Police Department for a very long time. I was a prosecutor, Hennepin County prosecutor back in the day, during the Murderapolis days.
Oh, so you know.
Yeah, and this was when I worked as the community prosecutor over north with then Inspector Tim Dolan, who later became one of our better police chiefs.
Yeah, that chief.
I worked with him over north, and we had a high rate of crime then. What we did was we managed to collaborate with the communities, with the faith-based communities, with the churches, with the mosques, with the neighborhood organizations, with the residents, anyone who wanted to work with us. We had eyes on the streets 365 days of the year. And within a period of time, we brought the crime rate down so significantly that at the time our office got a national award.
Wow.
Okay? And it was directed at the impact we had on juvenile crime at the time.
Word.
And look where we're at now.
Look where we're at now. Seems like a
right back
deja vu, right? Deja vu.
That's right.
Well, I love that she got right into it. Again, this is Judge Martha Dimick. So, okay, just a few basic questions. Well, who are you?
Okay, I am a person who's running for Hennepin County Attorney. I was a judge on the bench for about 10 years. I worked in the Hennepin County Attorney's office for over 10 years, or almost 10 years, I should say, 7 with Amy and 3 with Mike Freeman. I was recruited away from the Hennepin County Attorney's office to the City Attorney's office by Susan Siegel. She wanted me to be her criminal deputy there.
Okay.
So I managed over 60 attorneys and support staff. I'm the only person that has that experience and that has been in the City Attorney's office managing a prosecution office.
Now, does that make a difference?
Yeah.
Because you say that with an emphasis. Why does that make a difference? Why does that separate you from the other candidates that are running?
Because the other candidates that are running One is a politician. I'm not a politician. He's a
Word.
career politician.
Career politics. And a bad one at that. I mean, anyway.
Well, and
I said that. You did.
Thank you. And he's never stepped foot in the courtroom. Okay.
So he's an attorney, right? But he's never stepped foot in the courtroom.
No. And I've tried cases. I know how to charge cases. I know what it takes to charge a case.
Does that make a difference? I'm glad you said that. Especially like with the cases like, i.e. George Floyd case, or the case now where the officer that killed Lionel Frazier, cases like that. Let's just take that case, for example. If you're the county attorney and you're presented with that case, do you charge when this looks like a huge mistake where this patron lost his life, obviously hit by this officer? How do you go about charging? Because isn't that going to make a difference?
It's going to make a difference. See, I need to know all the facts. I need to know how the investigating officers, what they investigated, what did they turn up, what else needs to be done in order to make a case.
What?
Let's take, for instance, let's take
Amir
Amir
Locke? Yes, ma'am.
Locke. Let's
Yes, ma'am.
take that one as an
Okay.
example because that's the latest one we've had to deal with.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you don't come out in front of the public and say it was a right to shoot and then turn around and show a body cam video that shows him pointing the gun to the ground. That's initially how that case was handled, initially.
Yes, ma'am.
Before even the county attorney's office or anyone else had anything to say. You know, the interim police chief came out and she said that. And there's other body cam video, there's other investigation, there's a whole lot of information that was missing. You can't say, that's what gets us in trouble. That's what gets the police department in trouble, and that's what gets the county attorney's office in trouble. You making comments before you have all the information, and you can't let the activists push you into doing something that you're not ready to do.
And you wouldn't do that. So you said a
hell
lot
no.
of times those. You can say that. No, we love that though, because that's what's being real. Because you're here to help folks decide and decipher on who to choose, right?
Right,
And so
exactly.
you're saying things that the other candidates haven't said, right? Or even bold enough to say. So
Right.
we love that. Would you have charged in the Amir Locke case? Would you?
I don't like second guessing.
Oh, word.
Okay. Mike Freeman and I think was it Keith Ellison, and there probably were other prosecutors in the background reviewing that case. When they came out and made their decision, they issued a 44-page report. I didn't read all of the report, but it was total transparency, which is what people want.
Okay.
If you want to challenge, don't come out and just have a visceral attack and just an emotional attack because it didn't happen the way you wanted it to happen. Look at the facts, look at the report, and then make a decision whether or not you agree with it. But don't just jump out there and start attacking everybody. It makes our jobs are hard enough as it is, and the community is really as upset as it is right now with the way some of these shootings have gone. We don't need to escalate that. Let's settle down and figure out exactly what was done and what decision was made and why it was made. End of story. I will not second guess another prosecutor who's already seen way more than I have. Like I said, I haven't read that report.
I wanted to ask, for you, what made you want to run for Hennepin County Attorney? Because, like you said, you were a prosecutor. Was it for Hennepin County you were a prosecutor?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, kind of tell me about that.
Well, thanks for asking that, AK. When George Floyd was murdered, a number of us, our bench, wanted to put out a statement just to let the community know how we felt. And I believe there were judicial officers around the country, Superior Court judges, other judges, making comments, making statements. We wanted to do something to let the community know where we were at and how this impacted us. We were not allowed to do that. And so that really frustrated me from the higher-ups. That really frustrated me. And I also live over north. I've lived over north for almost 20 years now. And I saw the increase in violent crimes in my neighborhood. A couple blocks down the street from me, one weekend there were 4 murders.
Wow.
Okay, and since June of 2020, there have been 84 murders in North Minneapolis alone. Okay,
Right.
that is a 250% increase from the prior period of time, the prior 2-year period of time. Okay, that's outrageous. I'm watching neighbors, I'm watching fathers, mothers, sisters, daughters, athletes, children, and babies getting caught in the crossfire. And the only thing you don't see activists coming over to North Minneapolis and saying, you know, what are we doing?
Yeah.
What are we doing? Because as far as I'm concerned, all Black lives matter. Not just, I mean, I'm not going to diminish the fact that it's horrible to have these kids, these young men getting shot by police.
Yeah.
But our neighborhood is a war zone.
You know what's so refreshing to hear you say that.
Hey, how they do? What they say?
Snap, snap, snap. The reason it's refreshing to hear you say that, I've been beating on this drum, and I get it. You know, I play a little bit of, you know, trying to razz people up, get them fired up, but I genuinely care about human life. I always have. You know, before we started this, I was telling you all these things that I do when I randomly help strangers. Like on my way here, when I helped this guy, brought him to get gas and brought back to his van. I do that type of stuff.
Damn fool.
But when I look at these statistics, the number one cause of death for Black males age 1 to 44 in the United States is homicide.
Yes.
What's the sixth leading cause, though?
That's okay. No, not on the CDC. From this, but when I say that, people are like, well, why do you know, like, what are you trying to say? But my thing is, I'm trying to say, we need to change that. That is unacceptable.
Got to deal with it.
But people don't want to talk about it because they're like, you're demonizing, you're saying that we're monsters, you're bringing the stereotype. I'm like, I don't care if that's what you think is going to happen. If we can find a way to do this, and I think that as a prosecutor, especially yourself, you lived through the Murderapolis days, and I don't want to try and rehash, but you know, what are some things for you that you would want to see implemented if you became Hennepin County Attorney?
You know, we have to deal with the gun violence. We absolutely have to deal with gun violence. And I think one of the main emphasis we have to stop promoting this false narrative that we can decriminalize violent crimes.
Okay. Of course we can, right? We live in a utopia type of world.
To hear you say that is amazing, but continue.
Okay, what I mean is, you can't have people out there saying that there should be restorative justice for violent crimes. And one of my opposing party believes that we can have restorative justice for violent crimes. Do you understand what a violent crime is? It's a murder, it's a rape, it's an ag robbery, and we're going to sit up there and put these people through restorative justice? No, they belong up under the jail. Yeah. Okay? They belong in prison. There's no alternative for violent crimes and violent repeat offenders, or repeat offenders that are constantly going back out and committing the same offense over and over and over again because we don't have any place to put them, or because we're not putting them where they belong. I do agree that there are certain low-level offenses that are totally ripe for diversion and for restorative justice, but not violent crimes. We have to send a message. You're going to go out there and start shooting folks or stabbing folks. There are consequences, and the consequences is prison.
Yeah, no, I think that because as Black folks, and we all know this, that, you know, especially I'm a big advocate of, you know, of crimes that are unequal crimes that our counterparts get in prison for versus that we do. As county attorney, you will be responsible for some of that, right?
Right.
And as a Black county attorney, I think Black folks, well, you get it. It's a double-edged sword, because like with Kamala Harris, you got, oh, you imprison all these Black folks for weed charges. Well, were they breaking the law? What were they doing? And then when you live in a county so heavily populated by Black folks, what is she supposed to do? You know, yeah. So how do you deal with that as a Black woman, you know, and let's say you're elected as a Black county attorney, you're going to they want you to be tough. We want you to be tough on crime, especially nowadays, right? Especially over the last 2 years, right?
Right.
How do you be tough on crime as a Black woman and as a county attorney, and then deal with the backlash from the black community that says you ain't black because you putting black folks away.
You know, I have a very thick skin, and if it's true and I'm doing something wrong and there's a misstep, fine.
Word.
But if someone is breaking the law and it's a serious criminal violent violation, those are the consequences. People have to understand. You make the choice. You making the choice. It's free will. Go out there. You know, there are certain pathways we can take. And, you know, the problem in our community sometimes is that our young people, they don't see any hope.
Yeah.
You know, they don't value human life because they don't think they're going to live past the age of 21, 22, 23 years old. So that's what's happening with our young people. And so we have to have enough resources out there. We have to be able to deal with the community as a whole. I accept responsibility for my community.
Word.
My community as a whole. I want to know what the parents are doing. What kind of help do the parents need? I want to know if people have enough food on their tables. Are they working 10, 15 jobs and they can't be home and take care of their kids because they have to keep food on the table? I want to know that is there going to be sufficient housing? I mean, everybody always say, well, look at the parents. Well, some of these parents, yes, they do have issues. Some of them do have drug problems. But the majority of these people in my neighborhood, they are hard workers.
Yes, indeed.
And they're trying to take care of business. And sometimes some of the things that they're doing, it kind of leads us to believe that maybe they need to be paying more attention to the kids.
Yeah, well, kids fly. You know how you couldn't wait to cuss when you left the house when you got older. You could, that's kind of how it is, though, right? Kids sometimes they slip through the cracks because you got a parent or parents that are working hard to attain a good life, and so sometimes again, you let your 14-year-old child, who you think is at the Boys and Girls Club, but he's out banging or stealing cars. And comes on, because I'm going to just be real. I was one of those, you were too as a boy. You know you're one of those kids. I came from a good family, right? I would go out and be roguish and come home and be a perfect child. Mom and dad didn't know it, right? So you like you say, we always say, what are the parents at? Well, my parents were hard workers. They didn't work 12 hours. They worked at 8 hours. They were home, but they thought they could trust their kids, And so people, I think parents take too much of the brunt. So is there a racial issue in the criminal justice system? And if there is, how does a black county attorney deal with such an issue?
Exactly. Find out where the problems are. I do believe there may be some problems with child protection. There might be some issues in the child protection arena. I also think there may be some difficulties in terms of equitable sentencings. And making sure that there's sentencings that are done on a fair basis, not taking into consideration what the skin color of the person is, but actually what the crime is and how the crime weighs in terms of the danger and the impact on the communities. So there's, it's funny it's not funny you should ask, and I'm glad you did ask that. But I recently met with with some of my former constituents in the county attorney's office. See, I still have people there that I worked with.
Word.
I can call them up and say, okay, what's going on with carjackings? What are y'all doing with carjackings? What about expungements? How are we working with the expungements? Are we teaching people how they can get their records expunged? And then with the carjackings, I met with the lead attorney who's doing the carjackings, who's actually, doing those cases. And I sat down across the table from him for lunch one day and said, okay, what's the deal here? What can we do? How can we curtail that? But then you've got a system right now that closes up the avenues of some of the places where we can put these kids. The county homeschool's closed.
It is.
No plan.
So there's been a couple of questions that are kind of keep rotating in regards to, why is there so much crime, or addressing the root causes of crime? As a prosecutor, you talked about things that worked back in the Murder-Appolis days of working with community.
Yes.
So is that how you view addressing these issues, like the root causes, or the things that are fueling? And do you have an opinion of why there is so much crime going on?
I think because the message has been sent that people don't have to be held accountable. And I think it's been sent by the wrong folks saying that, we're putting too many people in prison. We're not. We're the fourth lowest in the states. We're the fourth lowest.
Minnesota is.
Yes.
Okay.
In terms of incarcerations. You want to talk about Los Angeles and some of these others.
Florida and places like that.
Florida.
Yeah.
That's where you want to go and talk about there's putting too many black people in prison.
Okay.
That, we are the fourth lowest. And I believe honestly that the people that are in prison are the ones that have done the serious crimes. And there are programs in prisons now, boot camp for those who do, they've had enough, they have a significant criminal history, so they've of course got a criminal sentence into prison. But then they have programs set up for them in prison in order to reacclimate and reenter them into society. And we have to work on those programs too. But we're not. I don't agree with that. Actually, I think some people would think that Minnesota's too soft on crime.
Do you think that Minnesota's too soft on crime?
I don't think Minnesota's too soft. I would like to say there's a happy medium we can reach here. But I think that we have to pay attention to what's happening with our youth, and we have to pay attention to what's happening to the entire criminal justice system. I will collaborate with everyone. I'll work with the police officers. I'll work with the probation officers. I'll work with our justice partners. I'll work with the county commissioners. I have good relationships with these people. I will work with everyone. What is your suggestion? But I'm not going to listen to people yell at me and say that, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. If you can't come to me with a solution or at least say I'm willing to help, and all you're doing is bashing us, that we're not getting anywhere doing that.
We're not getting anywhere doing that. I was just talking to someone this morning when we were having breakfast, and they were talking about, I was telling them how I'm not for folks to go to your home and do that picking and stuff, right? I think it's fair game to pick it at place of business, or if you find me in a restaurant. But when you go to someone's home and start doing that, I think that's borderline. That's dangerous. And we've set a new precedence for that. Yeah. And you couldn't do that to my house. Believe it. Where my camera at? If you come to my house. No. So addressing root cause issues, especially with our community.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
A lot of times, and this report said it as much too, that there have been too much, even though we're probably the fourth lowest, you said, right?
Right.
Due to black incarceration.
Right.
Nevertheless, there is what seems to us as a high rate of black incarceration. So if Lady Justice, is it Lady Justice?
Yeah.
Okay.
Lady Justice
right.
is blind.
If she's blind, then how are we seeing such a sentencing discrepancy?
Disparity, whatever.
Between the black folks, black and brown, young men, mostly men, than their white counterparts. And so as county attorney, is that your job to try to set that on an equal footing?
I think we can encourage more equity in terms, equalness. I hate the word equity because people get all upset about you using it. But I think that there could be an easier way to address that issue. You got 63, 64 judges on the bench, and every one of them come from a different background.
In Hennepin County?
Yes, in Hennepin County.
There are how many judges?
There's 63 right now.
You love how she comes up with all these numbers,
Yeah,
right? She's got them.
No idea. That feels like a lot.
Right,
So is that in the criminal?
And that's entire. So they handle criminal and civil.
Okay. 63.
63. We might be down now because I don't know if they replaced me. And there might be a couple others who are retiring that they haven't replaced. But then, think you have a group in juvenile, you have a group in family, you have someone in probate, and then you have X amount in civil. There's one in drug court that does all the treatment courts. And then
Kevin Burke used to be so good.
I was on a serious crimes team, so I only dealt with serious crimes.
As a judge, you mean?
Yes,
okay.
As a judge, and I also did that as a prosecutor.
So so sentencing is something that is near and dear because
Yes.
How do you set a guideline for, let's say Jamar comes in, first time offender, because usually that makes a difference, right?
Right, it sure does.
But I come in for armed robbery. I'm coming in for armed robbery, right? Pretty serious too, right? Let's say I don't know, armed robbery where I hurt the individual.
Okay.
How do you and let's say Billy Ray comes in. Billy Ray Cyrus comes in.
Billy Ray Cyrus
with the mullet and all.
And he's white.
He's white. He's white.
Sure,
So he's white. We did the same identical crime.
Yes.
And
he doesn't have a history.
Billy doesn't have a history either. How are you going to sentence Jamar and Billy? How do you sentence? The same.
You know,
is that lip service or are you?
No, aggravated robbery. There are sentencing guidelines.
Okay.
Each offense, especially when you get up to the more serious crimes, they have a specific period of time that you're supposed. It's set forth in the statute.
But Judge, not to interrupt you, but to interrupt you. I just heard last week, in fact, how judges use the guideline, but like Judge, what's her name that was in the Potter trial?
Judge Chu.
Chu, I was going to say.
Yes. How
she's one of those, I don't know, we don't call liberal judges, but how she tends to go be below sentencing guidelines. She doesn't never sentence you above or at. She goes below, and they were showing up a couple of judges that do that. Mm-hmm. I know it's your discrepancy to do that, or at your discretion, excuse me, to do so.
Right, that's right.
But
you
again,
have to have aggravating factors or mitigating.
I just want to say mitigating. So what? Okay, so the mitigating factor is Billy Ray bust her head. I didn't. Who's going to get more time?
That's tough.
Okay.
Okay.
At least you're being honest.
Okay. Does Billy Ray have a drinking problem? Does Billy or does Jamar have a mental health concerns? Is a victim asking for more time? A victim asking for less time? Is the victim saying throw him up under the bus?
That's interesting to hear you say that. So that's all a part of sentencing, like all of these factors. So because I tend to say I want to look at information. When I hear these stories, kind of like you're explaining between Jamar and Billy Ray Cyrus, and they say, well, look at the disparity of this sentencing. I always say, well, do we know what the factors were? And usually when you look at it, in my opinion, I think we have one of the greatest legal systems in the world. I really honestly do.
Bless your heart.
And because hearing you say these things, it makes me wonder. So from your perspective, obviously you've been in law for a long time, practicing law, and you used to be a nurse.
Yes.
So you used to be in the healthcare field. So you clearly have a heart for people.
Yes.
So when you're running for attorney, is it because you actually want to help people?
Yes, and not to be pie in the sky, I really think that I can make a difference.
Word.
I really think because I grew up in 2 inner cities. I'm in an inner city here as far as I'm concerned, and I grew up in the inner city of Milwaukee. I raised my daughter as a single parent in the inner city of Milwaukee. So I came from basically, I was a single mom.
Yeah.
And I started on welfare and put myself through nursing school. Not that that's a sob story or anything like that. And then a couple of years later, went and got my BSN. I went to a junior college, and I am a total proponent of junior colleges.
My boy's in one right now.
Yeah, and you get a 2-year degree. I got a 2-year degree in nursing. I was a registered nurse as an associate's degree. And then I turned around 2 years later. The hospital paid for me to get my bachelor's. So I went back and got my bachelor's. I was in nursing for over 10 years.
Wow.
And then, I decided to do something different. But let's get back to the sentencing issue. When we have someone before us for sentencing, we have a pre-sentence investigation report in front of us. Now, if the person has any psychological issues, we got a psychological evaluation done. If they've got a drug issue, we have a chemical dependency evaluation. We have all this information, and it's not just 1 or 2 pages. And the pre-sentence investigation, it looks at their background, it looks at their a person's history, their family history, their drug history. They go all the way back to your childhood.
Really?
And they get all this information from the defendants. That's why it's good that the defense attorneys say, participate with the probation officer that's going to be doing your report. Tell them everything, because that probation officer will do a summary at the end and say what they think the sentence should be. Now, and if there are mitigating factors, aggravating factors, I'm sure Judge Chu had a rather large PSI, pre-sentence investigation report that she was reviewing, along with a number of recommendations. So that's what we have.
She ain't following that one, She ain't following that one, Judge. Now, because okay, okay, don't get me started on Judge.
I actually, what I wanted to ask you
Yes.
is it difficult when you are, especially presiding as a judge, and again, if you win this position and you're a county attorney, how do you handle the pressure that gets put on you from community activists, things like that, in high-profile cases, or what it might be? How have you handled that, and does it impact your ability to do your job?
I hope not. I hope it doesn't impact my ability to do my job. I'm surrounding myself, and I know the county attorneys that are there now. We've got some fantastic and dynamic and very smart people in that office, okay? Can there be ways in which some of them can improve? Because we have a young office too. A lot of the people that I worked with, they've retired. You know what I'm saying? And so some of the county attorneys have only been on the job like between 3 and 5 years. And so they have a lot to learn. And they're being thrust into these very difficult cases. Back in the day when I was a county attorney, I had to have experience before I was placed on the adult prosecution division. Right now, right out of school, those are serious crimes.
Is there enough? Are there enough prosecutions, public defenders of color there? Because it doesn't seem like when you look at the lopsided sentencing, which is usually done by judges, but we don't have enough representation. So if I don't have someone that looks like me, understands me, can relate to me, relate to the cultural differences versus he or she from Edina or someplace in the suburbs who is doing their job, and not that they aren't doing a good job, because I feel sorry for public defenders because they deal with, on an average, 40 cases, 20?
Oh, more than that.
Per person, right?
More than that.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying.
Probably over 200 now.
Okay.
Because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
Even you would be
You think
shocked.
that's swamp, Judge?
It's bad. In fact, as a judge, we have so many that we're trying to keep. We all have a caseload too.
Well, yeah, of course, right.
And I think when I left, I think my caseload was over 350.
How do you keep that straight?
What do
you
you
don't
do?
deal with them all at the same time.
Well, yeah, sure,
You know
right,
what I'm saying?
But
yes.
Do you like make notes in your files or
Oh
your
yeah.
clerks?
Oh yeah.
make
We
notes or
we
whatever?
keep very good notes.
Do you remember some of these criminals?
Oh yeah.
Did it become a blur?
No, you remember people.
Okay, I know. Listen, you're not gonna get a little juicy. Can you give us a quick synopsis of probably your worst case, or I won't say favorite, but like your
Memorable?
most memorable.
Either because of good or bad.
Yeah.
Oh shoot. Okay. I had when I was practicing, I took charge of date rape drug cases.
Okay.
So cases that young women were being drugged
Yes.
in bars and that with Rohypnol or what they call GHB.
Okay. Or Bill Cosby. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And so anyway, they weren't winning those cases because once number one, the person has retrograde amnesia. They don't remember things. It comes back to them later on after they've been raped. Number two, the drug doesn't stay in your system. Your first urination, that's it. There's your evidence.
Really?
And so half the time you don't know you've been drugged.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? So there's no indication of any toxicological testing that's going to show there's a drug in your system. So when I first got to the adult prosecution division, they gave me these files of all these. I mean, there was 2 of them. And I thought, oh God, what am I going to do with this? And so I was at home one day reading the paper, the Sunday paper, and in the paper there was this expert on GHB, a doctor at the Hennepin County Medical Center.
Is that right?
That was his specialty. He and his wife traveled around the country testifying on those cases.
Word.
And so I contacted him, and I invited him in. I recruited him, and he sat down and he explained to me the whole process of what you can expect a person to exhibit, symptomatology wise. What a person will exhibit under the influence of a date rape drug, and it's all the same. It's the same thing. And so what he did was he put together a PowerPoint presentation. He talked about the chemical, nuances in the case, and he talked about what a person would look like under the influence. Now, he could never testify when he's talking about this in front of a jury. He can't say that that person was drugged, but he can say that person's symptoms mirror the symptoms of someone who's under the influence. Just like with battered women syndrome. You can say these are the symptoms of someone who's been battered over a period of time. This is how they're going to exhibit these symptoms, but you could never testify. A doctor can never testify, or a psychologist can never testify that that person was battered.
Would you allow that if a doctor got up trying to testify to as such, by you knowing that, would you say, nope, you can't, because I know better. You can't testify to that.
Oh, no, that's the judge's purview.
Oh.
I presented this doctor as an expert witness.
Oh.
And then there's criteria in the rules of exactly what it takes to qualify someone as an expert. I met all the criteria. The judge makes the decision. Of course, the defense attorney saying,
Of course. Just, we got a bunch of questions here on the last few 8 minutes we got with you. One question is, so you think we can arrest our way out of everything that plagues our community? What solid investments in mental health providers, jobs and economic developments, trade schools, career opportunities, and other cultivating caring communities?
So it sounds like he's saying that, part of your argument sounds like you're saying, and I don't think that this is accurate, but that we can arrest our way out of our current situation. And then he lays out a list of things that would be able to help stop the crime. And I think it's interesting. So do you think that both things are important, or do you think that you have to nail down on getting criminals off the street?
I want to get the crime rate down. We've got to get the crime rate down first. That's everybody's concerned about public safety. Everybody deserves to be safe in their neighborhoods, and they're not now. Yeah. I want to get the crime rate down, and then we need to deal with all these other issues. But right now, everyone's concerned about how skyrocketing the crime rate is right now. So yes, I do believe that at some point, once we get that settled down, then of course we can, and hopefully as we're dealing with some of the issues, we're going to be able to apply some resources that are going to make a dent in whether or not these people are going to go back out and commit and recommit crime.
The recidivism rate is even getting, over the last 2 years, must be skyrocketing, right?
Yes, it is.
Bethany says, what about all the scholarships provided to high school future graduate minorities? Isn't that something that helps paves the way to a brighter future? Why not keep our kids in schools to strike? I can't read this.
Strive to get a secondary education instead of a handout. When I grew up inner city, east side, buses took you to high school that you wanted to attend. I think some of our commenters are arguing with each other back and forth. But Judge, I wanted to ask you, this is something that's been on my mind forever.
Yes.
As a judge, do you believe that our system has changed in your time to push people through quickly? So if I go to trial and you have you got a docket in front of you and you look at it and you say, how are you pleading, guilty, not guilty? I feel like there's an incentive to get people to plead out versus having them go through trial. And have you experienced that, or what's your opinion on why a lot of people end up pleading out versus going to trial if they think that they're actually innocent? And I'm saying for lower level stuff.
And to answer that doubly, is that a bad thing too?
Yeah.
No. Actually, the negotiations are there for a reason. The case may be weak. They may not stand a chance at trial. Or perhaps there's an alternative, like they can, like if it's a theft of X amount of money, they can lower it down to underneath a certain amount so that they can get a better outcome. I think it's more important to let people negotiate openly, because we're not supposed to get involved in any negotiations. I got in trouble for that back in the day. because the judges, unless you ask permission from both the prosecutor and the defense attorney, do you want my opinion, how I would see this case, you can't get involved. And so a lot of the negotiation goes on behind closed doors. In fact, before we get to the pretrial stage, we expect the attorneys to have communicated before they even come in front of us, to have at least made an offer and maybe a counteroffer before they even get in front of us. And if it's not something that someone feels that they can accept, they're free to go to trial.
Do you think, has there been a case where that happens and then you don't accept it? Because the judge, you have the purview of accepting a plea or something like that too, right? So is there something like a guideline where like, nah, I think that's the prosecution is suggesting too harsh of a sentence. And this is what we'll go with, like Chu did. Basically, that's what Chu did, right?
Well, I don't know if I think, and it hasn't been because of I think it's because the prosecutor wanted to give away their case, and I thought, no.
Really?
No, don't be doing that. I think I'm trying to think, of an example, but like I said, I don't interfere. There was one case recently before I retired where a young man didn't think that the plea was explained to him very coherently by his defense attorney, and he wanted to withdraw his plea. So he came before me, and actually I took both attorneys to my chambers, and I said, I really worry about this guy. There might have been a language, I think he might have been African, and it was a language discrepancy. I said, I really sincerely believe that he didn't really understand what was going on. But he did everything he needed to do to enter a valid plea. Okay?
Yes.
So I had to find a way.
So
allow him to withdraw and I did allow him to withdraw his plea.
They ended up going to jail?
No,
Okay.
he has to start all over again.
Okay.
No, so he just gets a new public
Start back
defender.
over.
Right, he just starts over again. I just thought that was the fair thing to do.
Yeah.
But that doesn't always happen that way.
I have these questions because I've had these conversations with people so many times. So from your perspective and your experience, do you believe the truth that you are innocent until proven guilty?
Ooh. I think you are, but even sometimes then you're. And I think you're innocent to proven guilty, but then sometimes even then. I mean, sometimes the innocent get convicted.
So the reason I asked that, right?
In my situation, when I was a prosecutor, once.
Yeah.
Once?
Yeah.
Really?
I convicted somebody who was innocent, and they caught me at the Court of Appeals.
Yeah.
So, look, see, why would you
that's what I'm saying,
mentioned
like,
that on the way out the door.
There's many
But
things
that was a long time ago.
So, but what do you mean? Well, how did it happen though? Can you give us a synopsis?
Oh, God,
What do you mean?
I can't give you the specifics because it was one of my earlier cases
Okay.
as a prosecutor.
Okay.
But I remember, and I thought, and there was a technicality with how the offense was read.
Okay.
It was and how the jury instruction was given.
Sure.
So a lot of cases can be kicked out on the technicalities, right? Or not a lot of cases, but
they were right. The Court of Appeals was right.
you admit that.
Oh, I sure do.
That's big. That's what we. So, Judge,
Yeah, I made a mistake.
if you get elected, do you promise to be the same person?
I'm very transparent. You know, what you see is what you get. That's probably what gets me in trouble.
So you'll go into that office. Will you clean things up? Will you make a transparent office? Can we count on that?
I want the office to be more transparent. And I think the office can be more transparent.
You're gonna get a lot of pushback though.
Well,
you're gonna go through there firing folks that don't want to.
No.
Okay, let me ask you a question.
I hope that I can just convince people that this is the best way that we need to run this office.
Can you fire, or because of contract, like with the unions, they can't go
It's
anywhere?
not that easy.
Oh, it's like police
have
officer.
Right, they have unions.
So another prosecutor, right? Am I saying that you'd be the head, right?
Right.
So,
but you have managers under you. I have a deputy, a criminal deputy. Then you have managers of different areas like juvenile, adult prosecution, child protection. You have all these different managers, and then you have senior attorneys that manage a group of newer attorneys. There's a hierarchy.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this question came up. Would it be your purview, or have you had experience in prosecuting white collar crimes, specifically that there's kind of cryptocurrencies?
No, none of that yet.
None of that.
I know that. Well, I think wage theft is going to come under criminal.
Wage theft?
Wage
What's
theft.
that?
That's where they hire these usually Mexicans and brown people, these construction workers, and then they at the end of the job they don't pay them because they come up with an excuse not to pay them.
Donald Trump.
And they don't know, and they don't know. They don't have any avenues of. That's really starting to come up more and more now.
So you're
To
saying
be criminal, though.
Yeah,
Instead
exactly.
of just like
Yeah,
a little,
yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying to think white collar. Oh shoot!
Like
What would
Ponzi
be
schemes or something like that. Bernie Madoff type of.
No, that's all federal stuff. That
Okay.
was all.
There's
federal.
no state Ponzi. What about the feed my children type of situation?
Well, that's going to be. I think that's federal.
That's gonna be federal
That's
too,
gonna be
yeah. Because
federal.
they get millions of dollars from the Fed.
I
That's
think
true.
a theft by swindle.
Okay.
Where you
Like old person, right? If I
yeah,
take
well,
some
that,
old.
yeah. There are statutes that protect vulnerable seniors. Yes.
So
Man,
I want to say one last thing. So when I asked you about if you're innocent, do you believe that is true, that you're innocent until proven guilty? And the reason why that's important is to follow back is if you are if you are innocent, right, presumed innocent by the system. My question is, when you have huge caseloads for judges, you have criminal defense attorneys that have 300 cases. You have prosecutors that are just trying to push people through. Does that get lost sometimes? Meaning that would it, in your mind, be better for every single person to, like, if they say I want to go to trial, knowing that it would take 5 years? Would you be in favor or want to see things more like that, or do you like the system now that, hey, you have a conversation, you're basically guilty, you have no evidence, you have no good defense, so just take your L, you'll probably get a lesser charge and then move on and out?
Well, that's oversimplification.
Okay.
Because number one, I have to know exactly what the charge is.
Sure.
And then when a defense attorney sits down with their client, what they're telling them is, okay, here's the evidence they have against you. Okay. And then, okay, this is how we need to build a case. Do you have someone that you can bring in as a witness? Or do you have someone that can refute some of this testimony or this evidence? Was somebody else there? Did you have an accomplice? I mean, there's so many different ways to look at a case. I think we're going to have some problems moving all of these cases through because of the pandemic and where we're at. Now we're back to Zoom hearings. They're back to Zoom hearings. The only thing that will get done in a courtroom are trials and evidentiary hearings. And then you also, if you've got evidence that, okay, somebody's got a gun, and the defense attorney says, well, I want to suppress the gun because I don't think the officer did what he should have done in order to, obtain that gun. Okay. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Some of those cases, they're dismissed because the officer didn't do the right thing.
Sure.
Okay?
Sure.
Will you be transparent about those type of cases,
I
Judge?
had a case where an officer testified, and I tell people this story all the time. An officer testified as to how he stopped this young man on the streets over there in my neighborhood, like on Penn and whatever, I think Broadway. And this kid's got a bike that doesn't have a license on it, a motorbike or whatever, one of those small ones. He's got a fanny pack, and the officer stops him and says, you don't have a license, and I'm going to help you just put your bike up. I'll get the kickstand out, blah, 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 blah. I walked him across the street, and we talked and blah, blah, blah. And then he got a little frisky and didn't want to, let me pat down his fanny pack because, of course, he had a gun in there.
Of course.
And so this kid's only like 23, 24 years old, and he's freaked out because, he's freaked out. Okay, he's telling me, the officer's testifying as to how wonderful he was with that guy. Mm-hmm. Then we got the body cam video. And guess what?
He whooped him up.
Oh, my God. Throwing him up against the car, throwing him on the ground. The kid's crying hysterically. He's afraid. This is one little kid. And the next thing you know, he calls for backup. There's 3 or 4 other his squad cars. I mean, wouldn't that scare the shit out of you?
Yeah, indeed.
So I said
they couldn't enter the gun as evidence. Is that what happened?
they were trying to suppress the gun.
Okay.
Okay. Now he did to the extent of what I saw, he did resist.
Okay.
You know, because
There was some resistance.
There was resistance.
Okay.
But they didn't need to do all that they did.
Yes.
And one of the phrases that the officer said when he looked down at the kid, he says, "What are you trying to do? Become another statistic?"
No. Yeah, that's terrible.
And so I'm like, oh no. And I challenged the officer in the courtroom. I said, "Your testimony doesn't jive with your body cam video." I said, it's a total opposite of what you testified to. Well, see, what I did was I took a copy of that CD and I sent it over to Arredondo. And I had seen him at a meeting a couple weeks earlier. And I had talked to him about some things that I was concerned about, what I saw. Because you see that stuff, you know who the good cops are.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you know who the bad ones are.
Yes.
For the most part, they're really good cops.
Yes.
The ones you can tell.
Yes.
You can tell.
You need to get him out of there.
I
Right?
mean,
Should be transparency. Like you said,
the chief, a good chief has to do that though.
Has
And
to,
right
yeah.
now we don't have one.
And see, I sent that to him, and I said, here's a CD of what you should use in your training classes.
Of what
of
not
what
to do.
not to do.
Word.
You
Word.
know? And see, we do that. And we do that as prosecutors. Prosecutors are the gatekeepers.
Yes.
We have a chance to charge a case if the evidence is there. If there's something hinky going on, we need to bring it to the police officer's attention. And I used to do that when I was a prosecutor. I'm not perfect, but I remember one time when there was an individual who was arrested and charged with a 4th-degree assault, which is an assault on a police officer.
Okay.
In order to make that stick, it has to be a demonstrable injury.
Okay. A demonstrable injury.
Right.
Okay.
Like maybe they scratched him or they cut him or whatever, punched him in the face, and there's all this blood and there's a cut. That's a demonstrable injury. And they, of course, take photos. Well, for some reason, something told me to look at the guy. This is a long time ago now, 15, 20 years ago. Told me to look at the guy's booking photo.
Mm-hmm.
He beat the shit out of me.
Yes.
And I thought, oh my gosh. So I thought, rather than probably do what I should have done years ago, what I did was I called the officer in my office as a county attorney, and I said, "Hey, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to charge this case, but by the time we go to court, your scratch is gonna be gone. I'm not gonna be able to show anything."
They didn't like that.
No, he said, "Oh, I get it," and I didn't charge the case.
Yeah.
Judge, we've had you here for too long. You're
Yeah.
a great guest.
You're awesome. We want to have you back.
Yes, you got to come back, please.
We have so many conversations.
Yes.
I mean, I'd love to talk to you about, a lot of the things that we do. It's just that I have the experience. I know what needs to be done. I know where we can make some changes. I'm going to work with everybody within my office. Not everybody's going to agree with what I want to do. But that's par for the course.
Yes.
Where can people find more information about your campaign, anything that you're doing? Do you have a website?
MarthaForHennepin.com.
Martha for Hennepin.
They can go there and they can donate.
Right.
They can contribute. I mean,
Right.
they can donate and help you do anything for the
Right.
campaign.
They can volunteer. They can see my priorities and initiatives. They can certainly get in touch with us. Oh, I have cards too.
Please
okay.
give them.
Yeah.
And what's the website again?
MarthaForHennepin.com.
Oh, these are nice. Watch out now.
Martha for Hennepin.
Let's see.
All right.
Let's
Yeah,
see.
it's hard to see it, but yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on, having such candid conversations with us. This is what this show is really about.
Right.
We truly believe that having these types of conversation, being candid, helps people to at least get a better perspective. I think it can be helpful, right?
Yes.
To dispel some of the more negative connotations, or some guests reinforce their negative connotations. But we truly appreciate.
Oh, you've been
on.
a great guest.
Okay.
You
Thank
coming
you.
back? You are gonna come back, right?
I'll come back.
Okay, good. 'Cause
I'll
we
come
got,
back.
so next time we know we're gonna spend like an hour and a half. 'Cause we got way too much,
Yeah,
right?
we got so
I mean,
much
honestly,
different,
I did not expect this, Judge, and so you've been a breath of fresh air. And let me say that, we hope, with I can't talk this time. I'm telling you, I can't talk tonight. during this endeavor of you vying for this job, that folks get to hear you and listen to you.
Yes.
Because honestly, I had never heard you. A mutual friend of ours is the one that told me about you, right?
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, yeah, she can come on. He's like, well, she's black. Oh, well, yeah, bring her. Yeah, definitely bring her on. And to hear you though,
Yes.
The vast experience that you have,
Yes.
oh man, that would be a welcome in that office. And I believe that you would make transparency the priority of just coming in the door. And we need that. We need someone to be honest,
Yes.
real, and transparent.
Yes.
And you're all those things.
And that'll allay a lot of people's concerns.
Yes.
If we just look, I can't give you the answer right now.
Yep.
We're going to charge this person.
Yep.
But I will keep you updated. Okay, we're at this point in the investigation. Okay, we're at this point. We still got a ways to go. And then we're going to tell you exactly how we're going to proceed on this case.
And we don't have that. We don't get
I'm
that
not
much
going to
now.
jump the gun. Yeah, but there's so much chaos out there.
Yeah.
I mean,
but I like how you said you won't be a person that lets activists bully or push you
I'm not
into
going to let
making
activists, police officers, or politicians telling me how to charge a case. We're the experts.
Yeah.
We know the law. And there's a lot of, I don't just sit down and say, okay, I'm going to read this all by myself. We got a group of people that read everything at the same time, give input. What do we do? It's not just a one-person decision. We collaborate with a lot of different people within the office. And that's, I'm going to try to surround myself with the smartest people. They got to be smarter than me.
That's right.
Yeah.
If that's possible. Just kidding.
Well, thank you again.
Thank you,
so
Judge.
much.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah,
man.
That was awesome.
Oh.
I've always loved having anybody that's in the law legal profession, because I have all these questions about our justice system.
She was great.
Amazing.
She was great.
And I also want to remind everybody about our sponsor, TakeCharge Minnesota. They're working to restore the two-parent black family. It's a key priority, as well as embracing 3 foundational values of faith, family, and getting a better education for our children. Now, Take Charge Minnesota is releasing a film entitled I Am a Victor on May 6th, which chronicles the 2 cultural paths followed by black Americans and the results of those 2 paths over the past 50 years since the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Please visit the film's website, imavictor.com, to sign up and stay up to date on the latest news about the movie. And make sure that you visit our Patreon. If you like what you saw, we're going to have our podcast up. Please like it, share it. If you like what we do, if you enjoy these conversations, please consider becoming a contributor to the podcast.
Our guests are saying, keep going. Don't have a time limit. I'm with them, because the way the judge, hey, man, you listen, I love to be REAL. And we have someone on like that, that's vying for a job that's not on here being all political, walking on eggshells, giving you BS. We love that and we welcome that. And so I'm gonna tell y'all something. I thought that a previous guest that we had would be good in that position.
Yeah.
Well, you know me. Ain't nothing to do with the judge, even though she happens to be my favorite color. But nevertheless, man, honestly, right now, you gotta kind of get me off of the judge. Because right now, that's who would get my vote. Because
that's awesome.
Hearing her was so freaking refreshing. That's someone that you can go sit down with. Doesn't think about color. Doesn't think about party. Like you guys want. By the rule of the law, use the law as a guidance as to what she should do to for a sentence or something like that. And so that's beautiful, bro. That is so beautiful. Can't wait to have her on the show. Man, dude, next week fireworks.
Yeah.
Chief Todd Axtell next week.
Yeah, I saw y'all's interaction on...
Did you?
I did.
Did you?
So it should be a great one.
It should be a great one. It's going to be fireworks in the house. I'm Jamar.
And I'm AK wearing my Yu Yu Hakusho.
You who? What? You want
What
some
up?
tissue? Did you sneeze? What'd you just say?
Yu Yu Hakusho.
Wait a minute. Spitting all on man's thing. For Jamar and Yu Sakashu.
AK Kamara, fan of Yu Yu Hakusho. Peace.
We'll check y'all next week.